Hello, my name is Kelly Lemon and I'm a property investor, and I'm recording this video because I heard something the other day that actually reminded me of a really valuable lesson, but it also paused me for thought. Now, yesterday I heard someone say, behind every unsuccessful man, there's a strong woman. Now, I've heard it the other way around. I've heard the saying that behind every successful man, there's a strong woman, but I've never really heard behind every unsuccessful man, there's a strong woman. And it really reminded me of how important it is in terms of the people that are in your life and in your corner. And it reminded me that whether you're successful, whether you're unsuccessful, whether you achieve your goals or whether you don't achieve your goals, a lot will be impacted by the people in your life, particularly if they're strong characters. And this may seem really obvious. In fact, I think it is very obvious, but the behaviour would suggest otherwise. And what I mean by that is, I talk at a lot of property events. I've been to a lot of property events and networking events. I've been in touch with several people that are investing in property over the years through my work. And it's very, very, very common for me to come across people that have partners that either don't understand what they're doing, don't care what they're doing, or they're kind of separate from it. You know, it's kind of like your toys are over there, my toys are over here. I don't really want any involvement with it. And I've always found that really interesting, because if you're investing in property, if you're buying properties and you're building an asset base, that's a massive commitment, but it's also a lifestyle choice. You're very much going into the self-sufficiency. I'm building an asset base for myself rather than relying on income from others. So it's a really quite a big fundamental difference. And like I said, I've come across hundreds, if not thousands of people that are they keep it separate. And I don't really understand how that works. But here's the point that I want to make. And this is what I've said to people over the years. And a lot of those people that I've seen, their relationships have not survived, actually. And it's because that input and that influence is really important. Because if you've got somebody in your life, a significant other, and actually they're not interested or they're risk averse or whatever it may be, it will impact the decisions that you make. You may make rash decisions because you want to prove yourself. You may make decisions that actually are very cautious because you're concerned about the impact at home. You may do all sorts of things that there will be a bearing. There is a relationship. We can't kind of separate this relationship. I guess that's the point I'm making. And that's just something to think about. And it's not just your significant other, because aside from that, then look at who are you working with, because quite often in property, there are very solitary jobs. There are very things that you do on your own. And it can be a very lonely journey. And that's why a lot of people join my community, because it can be very lonely. But also, property is definitely a people business. And you need to work with people along the way. You need consultants, you need solicitors, brokers, all sorts of people along the way. So you can't escape working with people when it comes to property. So the other thing to be mindful of is, who are those people? Who are you surrounding those people, yourself with those people? Are they yes people? You know, are they people that just say yes to everything just because they want to keep the client happy? Are they no people? Are they people that say no to everything? Because both extremes, neither extreme is good. Are they people that challenge you, try and understand your idea, try and understand what you're trying to achieve, challenge it, look for the blind spots, but ultimately they're aligned to the end goal with you. They're aligned to the commitment to the journey, so to speak. So who are you surrounded by? Because when you hire a mortgage broker, you hire a solicitor, can they do the job? That's one question. But actually, that's not the only question I ask my team anyway. I'm very mindful of who I surround myself with. In fact, it reminds me of something about maybe 15 years ago. I remember listening to an audiobook, and I was actually standing there doing the dishes. It just shows you how long ago it was. There was no dishwasher for some reason then. But anyway, and I heard this audio, and they said, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I feel like that's such a well-known quote. In fact, sometimes when things are so well-known, we hear it, but we don't really hear it. We don't really get it. And when I was standing there and I heard it, I really got it. And actually what I did in that circumstance, I sort of stood back and did a bit of an audit of my circle, both professionally and personally. And I was playing a lot of sports at the time. I was in a lot of team sports. And I kind of sat back and when I looked and when I did that audit, I thought, there's a lot of people I've got here in my life that they don't have the same sort of values necessarily. They don't have the same perspective as me. They don't necessarily want to move in the same direction. And they come at things from a very different angle than I do. And perhaps more importantly, they approach things differently and have a different mindset to maybe the one that I need for where I'm going. Because back then I was much further back in my property journey. I knew what it is that I wanted to build. And that was a really useful exercise. And there was nothing bad, there was no malice here. I didn't cut anybody out, but I did start to step back from those relationships. I did start to go, rather than spending 3 hours with you, 30 minutes may be more appropriate. And I just became very mindful of who was influencing a lot of my beliefs and views and opinions and all those sorts of things, because this is very subtle, but it actually has a profound impact, which is why when I heard that comment yesterday that behind every unsuccessful man there's a strong woman, it reminded me that when we go through life, when we get to the end of whatever it is that we're trying to do, you will look back, and when you look back, there's not an awful lot you can do with it. So actually, when we're looking ahead, you're either going to end up where you wanted to be or not where you wanted to be, and the people around you are going to have a massive impact on that. So this is not about men, women, or any of that sort of stuff. It's about who are your significant others? Who are the people around you? Who are the people that are influencing you? And where do they sit in your journey? But like I say, I heard it yesterday and I thought that's a great reminder. And it was said in a different way, so it made me think about it again. And it reminded me that actually, A, this is a people business, and B, the people that you choose, it doesn't happen by accident. And if it does, that in itself is a choice. So be aware of that, have a look at it and see where you want to make some changes, if indeed you do, or where you just want to reinforce some of the values and beliefs that you're already kind of working towards. So anyway, I hope that video was useful. Like I say, it was just a comment that was made that I thought you might get some value from. If you do want some company along the way, I have a community that I've built. You can sign up. You can join my community. I will email you every week with what's going on in property, what I think will be useful for you. I do a blog, I do a video, and also it's a great place for you to ask me questions, because I quite often create videos and content and blogs, etc., based on the questions that I get asked, because then rather than just answering one person, I can create a video or a tool or a resource and loads of people can get value from it. So that's a great place to do that. So there will be a link below here to join that community, and I would strongly recommend it. Join that community, and in there I also have loads of other resources that may help you along the way. So I hope this video has been useful for you, and I look forward to seeing you on another video at some point. As I said, my name is Kelly Lemon and I am a property professional, and thank you for your time.